Hey everybody, I have had a lot of requests recently to go over how we structure a basic go-to-market infrastructure setup. And I think for a while our main value proposition was to just do it ourselves, right? And we've seen that especially for horizontal software or software platforms that almost anyone can use or a large segment of the market can use, uh, just going and sending emails for clients alongside 10 or 20 BDRs does not work very well. Their account executives own a huge portion of the market. There's a lot of stepping on feet. And so lately, we've been having a lot of success with helping companies set up their go to market infrastructure, their outbound infrastructure, their revenue infrastructure. And I generally partner with people who are much more skilled on the HubSpot side of things, but I think I can at least explain the basics of how it works. I can do the basic HubSpot enrichment, but this is the full go-to-market architecture. What do I include in that? That is sending infrastructure, that's clay tables, that's stuff going in and out of HubSpot, those automations. There's lead routing automations, and then finally there's copywriting and context generation. I guess I would put copywriting into like a general prospect intelligence system because we use the prospect intelligence system to generate information that lets us do the copywriting. And I'd also put like AI replies into the lead routing section. So we'll get there. I don't want to explain too much before, but I do want to explain how we do fit these GTM infrastructure setups in just 3 months. Something interesting to note is that the bottlenecks are almost never on our side. There are so many things to consider, and that's why it's so important to have a good discovery and audit phase within the first month. Now, a lot of companies are looking to get started really fast, and they skip that, and it actually ends up making things take longer. So, what are some common instances that we've seen or problems that we've seen working with our partners? Like, we've had random ones where, like, Gong calls have been disconnected for like 3 years. So we have to go in and manually associate them, and that ends up making the close loss campaigns take longer. And basically, what I'm saying is like there are a set of fundamental go to market motions that most companies want to do. And those generally, if it was just dependent on me, would take like a month, right? But the purpose of a go to market infrastructure is to involve the partner company who you're setting this up for and teach them how to use it. And so generally that takes about 3 months. So I've scoped it out here kind of, accurately as like first month is discovery and audit phase. Second month, or I should say month one as I'm calling it here, is infrastructure setup and where like a majority of the intense work happens. And then month two, we're setting things up for the future, doing education and things like that. So, by all means, I'm not the expert of all experts. Other people might structure their infrastructure setups for companies in different ways, or they might be focused more on the revenue architecture than the go to market architecture. At the end of the day, it all sort of feeds into each other. So, let's just talk about the steps here. So, discovery phase, super important. Expectation setting. What does a successful engagement looks like? And I've had to do a lot of work here because generally I understood that companies would understand that go-to-market motions, especially setting things up well for the future and fixing years of mistakes and inefficiencies would take more than like 18 or 30 days before we started seeing like considerable pipeline generation. But this is super important to set the expectation that like, hey, the first 30 days, we're not expecting to do anything other than get to know you and your systems. Month two is where the sending and the pipeline generation will ideally happen, but we've seen it take as long as 6 months. Like a good story from one of my engineers who used to be an SDR at a large multinational company was put in charge of finding outbound motions that worked. Month one, nothing. Month two, nothing. Month three, nothing. On and on and on. Month 9, they cracked it and started making the company millions of dollars. So I'm not saying that outbound motions have to take that long, but you probably didn't crack ads on your first campaign. You probably didn't develop your other channels in 1 month or 2 months. I'm not saying that pipeline generation can't happen in the first month or the second month, but I like to temper expectations here. So we evaluate the team structure. Who are we going to be working with? Who is, like, we're going to leave at some point, like Stellar Growth or whatever company that is setting up the infrastructure. We'll leave at some point. Who is going to own these things going forward? And that colors a lot of how we do this setup, because one-off niche campaigns that require like an insane amount of technical knowledge might not be possible. And so I'm always asking when I'm setting something up, who is going to own this? How can I teach them to own it properly? We do not want something just randomly breaking after 6 months and them having to redo everything. Setting goals and expectations, we kind of already talked about this. What are the KPIs for success? Generally, really early on, it looks like, have we met with all the stakeholders? Do we understand what we want to do? Do we have a good scope that everybody agrees with? And then later on, it's like, how many positive replies are we getting? How many meetings are we getting? What is working? What is not? At the end of the day, the 3-month GTM infrastructure goal is just to find out what is working and what is resonating. And that's going to pay dividends for you. If you're a SaaS company and you find out this thing, these 3 things maybe that you thought would really resonate with the market don't, then we can move on and do something else. And you're never going to spend money on doing it if you did it properly ever again. Or you'll lean into what's working. And so this is the toughest part of any engagement, is like goals and expectations. Sales really wants their teams to have full calendars. Leadership really wants to make money, and they're investing a lot of money into this GTM infrastructure, right? So yeah, once we've met with all the stakeholders, we move into the audit phase, see what they've done in the past, audit the CRM. How bad is it? How many contacts are in there? What do you guys think your target area market size is? We'll do a little bit of back and forth with AI to kind of understand your business a little bit. We'll also look through your sales calls. Like, I will physically look through them rather than just feeding them to AI. And we'll come up with a scope that everyone agrees with. We decide to work together. Great. We've done all that groundwork. We onboard. And we start to reserve the email infrastructure, which is super important, because I'm going to say this going forward, is that companies must wait 30 days to send. That serves 2 purposes. 1, we decide what's really important in terms of outbound. And then number 2, we don't get any like virgin domain flags from, like, it just allows us to fully use the infrastructure. If you're sending from a new infrastructure and the domains are only like 2 weeks old, you're going to get higher bounce rates. You're not going to get to utilize the infrastructure as well as possible. If there is like an event or something highly impactful, there might be an opportunity to use generic infrastructure, but I would discourage it. So then we move on to market research. This is the period in which, if it hasn't been done already, I am understanding your business. My team is understanding your business. You are feeding us documentation that will help us understand your business. And not because we don't trust you, but we want to verify. We will go through market research with AI, the best AI models that are available. This changes from time to time. We will decide how to segment your verticals, especially if you're a horizontal SaaS. This is really important. We'll go through ICP documentation, basically. Who is your ICP? These documents are going to be the foundation for the future. What is your target area market like? Who is the ideal person you want to work with? What are the ideal personas? Some companies have already done this. I like to at least add to it. I'm like, hold on. I get that you think you know what you know. We're going to go through every single one of your best customers, all your customers, your best sales calls, all your sales calls, your churn customers, anything that we can get our hands on, and put that through a context model to understand what is going on there. While we're doing this, okay, so this is in tandem, we are setting up signals that will pay off dividends for the future. So website visitors is like non-negotiable. It's really helpful for attribution. If somebody comes and visits the website for the campaign, because website visitor identification is not perfect, you will probably multiply that number by 2 to 5x to see how many people are visiting your website from the campaign. And we're also setting up things like outbound sync that automatically sync with your CRM to know people who you sent to, are they coming in through other channels? That attribution is huge. Often we've seen that campaigns that would have otherwise be considered a failure by reply rate were actually successful in driving traffic to the website and getting interest. As I always say, at bare minimum, cold email sent to your target area market, maybe less targeted, is a private ads network. And, greats like Eric Nowzlowski have said this. Everybody, at minimum, can use it like that. Okay. So what are some other important signals? So the signals that are top down are when you already have a company list. Signals that are bottom up are when you're adding to your TAM because of the signal. And so, what we're doing here is we're doing bottom up. We're adding to our TAM from these signals: website visitors, ICP job changes, and hires at a smaller list. We'll go into what we do when we map the whole TAM out. And then really specific niche signals, like let's say companies that are sponsoring clinical trials that are not in institutions are your ICP. We can do that using clinicaltrials.gov. Okay, really important stuff. TAM mapping. Who are your best customers? What verticals do you want to target? What do you want to prioritize? Let's map this out as best we can. We're aiming for like 80%. Okay, we're not going to aim for 100% of your target area market in these 12 months. It's just not feasible. I think the people who spend time doing 100% target market or ICP map, they're wasting their time. We are going for the 80-20 here. Okay, we're also pulling in. We're at this point getting ready to launch the close loss campaign by analyzing sales calls and lost customers. We're taking the founder, especially founder-led sales. We're looking at the LinkedIn followers and likes and things like that. We're preparing a social campaign, and then we're also analyzing your competitors, potentially pulling your competitor followers for a competitor campaign. At the same time, this is all happening towards the end of month one. We are looking at your inbound. Do you have demo form abandoners? Do you have opt-ins that are not being sent to? What are you doing to follow up? That kind of thing. Great. Getting ready to launch this. Going through our checklist. Finally, we're coming up with prompts in Clay and other tools that will do your deep qualification. What is deep qualification? This is like a holy grail type prompt that will take any company or any person, put the metrics, every single metrics that we have through, and qualify the company and do some scoring. Okay, scoring is only important if you're limited by your team size, I would say, or by your channels. And ideally, we set up enough LinkedIn profiles and enough inboxes where we're not really limited by how much we can send. Okay, but that's not always the case. Then we're saying hello to your TAM. Okay, we're not every single campaign that we launch is going to be the most targeted campaign of all time. They're all going to be creative campaigns. There's going to be a creative angle to them, but we want to start, especially if you're a new startup, letting people know you exist. Okay, if we get positive replies, great. We have interviews, we get feedback, we push them to someone who can handle that. If not, we're following up, or after 2 emails for these bulk campaigns, we are stopping. We don't want to. There's no reason. All we're trying to do is say hello. So 2 emails. Add company level TAM to the CRM. This is where we're starting to enrich the CRM. Okay. We're putting all this work and all these lookalikes and all this stuff we found from all these sources into your TAM using a rubric that we come up with together. Super important. That is, I would say that this is a little compressed. It's like a 2-week process minimum. Great. We have your TAM in your CRM now and in Clay. We can use it. Now we go top down. We have your TAM to find new hires. We have your TAM to find job changes. We can monitor for all the like customer support hiring signals that you were looking for before. So now we have a nice loop going, right? We're adding to the TAM. We're monitoring the TAM. Let me just get rid of this. And yeah, then for this customer, this was a little different. LinkedIn outreach happened later because of the trust factor. They really, I really think that in terms of outreach, like people are more careful and it hurts revenue than they need to be. No one remembers a cold DM that they got like 3 weeks ago, okay? For the most part. We are doing things like prioritizing and bucketing our lead list. We don't want to send, like say we have a huge company that has tons of people that are good to work with us. We don't want to send to all of them at once. So we are bucketing and launching some of those campaigns in LinkedIn. And then we're also like segmenting them out, stepping them out for cold email. We're planning a re-enrichment. How often do we want to refresh the signals that we set up, like M&A, funding? Probably every like 60, 90 days if the CRM is huge. We already kind of did this step, I already mentioned the step, define essential data, define the data sources. That generally happens in like a master sheet, okay? And then we're planning retargeting. Possibly, Stellar Growth or me won't be there for that, okay? But we're setting up all this stuff so that this infrastructure can run without us. Positive reply comes in from an automated campaign. Double check that they're qualified, which surprisingly is something that I recommend doing. I recommend, honestly, for larger SaaS companies to do most of the qualification on the back end, but I can talk about that later. Route things properly, save this in a clay table, update it in HubSpot, enrich phone numbers, push over to a Slack channel for the BDRs, okay? I think that's basically all I have time for today. I've got a lot of schizo whiteboarding here, but this is just one example of how you can do GTM infrastructure. I hope you found it useful.